A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Sven, and you're listening to a new minisode of Coaster Kings. Today's episode is all about a brand new dark ride that just opened in Hunderfossen Eventyrpark in Norway. My apologies beforehand if I mispronounce certain Norwegian words, but I'll really try to do my best. Once upon a time, in the early 60s, a dam was built on the Lagan River near Lillehammer, 2 hours north of the capital Oslo. A man called Simon started a small cafeteria for the workers of the dam, and as time went by, it expanded with a camping ground. They also opened some recreational activities, such as pedal boats on the lake next to the farm and the forest. His daughter married a man called Anders Johan Huse, and by the early 80s, they had a new plan. After traveling around the world, including seeing Epcot in the United States, they also wanted to expand their recreational activities. One day, he opened a newspaper and read about the rejection of a giant troll in Oslo. A filmmaker called Ivo Caprino tried to build one in the capital of Norway, but never got the green light by the governing instances. However, Anders Huse was convinced. The troll needed to come to Hunderfossen. And at first Caprino was reluctant, but eventually he went to visit the site and agreed that it was a perfect spot for the troll. In 1984, the 14-meter or 46 feet high troll was ready and became an inspiration for the fairy tale theme of the park. 1 year later, a large cave structure was built behind the troll, and still to this day holds many fairy tale dioramas. In the years that followed, they expanded further with other attractions, such as Norway's first panoramic theater, a pool, and also the Energy Center, where the play and learn focus of the park really comes to life. In 1999, a second eye-catcher for the park was built, the Fairy Tale Castle. It opened with the first dark ride of the park called Eventyrslottet, which translates as Fairy Tale Castle. Here again, guests travel through different Norwegian fairy tale scenes, including princesses, trolls, and many more characters. It has trackless vehicles with onboard audio in both Norwegian and, on request, in English. 10 years later, in 2009, a walkthrough with a drop tower at the end opened in the castle as well, Trollfallet. Although it's a fairy tale park, you won't find colorful and flashy buildings. Instead, the family always used authentic Norwegian architecture, and almost all buildings have the same wooden style with a grassy roof. The park is now operated by the third generation of the family and holds several rides where almost all of them have a unique twist. Take, for example, their tractor ride that opened in 2011. The tractors were specially designed to look like smaller versions of the typical John Deere tractors, including the logo. And instead of just doing a normal round trip in farm theming, the tractors have 3 indoor cinema scenes and 3 outdoor story scenes. It shows how the park really looks to add rides that are just a tad bit different from the classic theme park rides. Fairy tales remain the main theme of the park, but they added a second theme to Hunderfossen at the back. There you can find the Aukrust area. Kjell Aukrust, a Norwegian author, created the Flåklypa universe. It started with newspaper drawings, and eventually that led to books, a TV series, and more. In 1975, they released the most watched Norwegian film of all time. Flåklypa Grand Prix tells the story of an inventor called Reodor Felgen that lives with 2 animal friends, a happy and adventurous magpie called Solan and a nervous hedgehog Ludvig. They live in the town called Flåklypa, and together they build a race car called Il Tempo Gigante. This to compete against the villain, Rudolf Bloodstrup-Moon, who had stolen plans from inventor Reodor to become a world champion. The stop-motion film was a big success and was directed by Ivo Caprino. Does that name sound familiar? Well, indeed, it was the same man who brought his giant troll to Hunderfossen. And when the family wanted to expand the park with new attractions, they went back to their roots and brought in new characters using existing relationships. In 2014, the park opened their very first roller coaster, called Il Tempo Extra Gigante. This zero coaster is a standard ESC 535 model, but fitting for the park with a twist. The whole train, and especially the giant front car, is a replica from the car from the original 1975 movie. New movies got released, and this time produced by Kvisten Animation, and the IP became as popular as ever. The characters are a hit in the park, and so they continue to expand the universe. In 2021, the park opened a ride inspired by a new, unique story in the Flåklypa universe, Reodor Felgen's Hyper Accelerator. This SimWorks simulator takes guests on a wild ride in a newly invented vehicle. It can fly, race through snow, drift on water, and much more. The attraction received a Thea Award for Best Attraction with limited budget for that year. And just last year, the 5th movie of the Flåklypa IP arrived in theaters. Flåklypa from Paris to the Pyramids. It was the most watched Norwegian movie in the last 3 years. Knowing the release of this movie, the park went to the Belgian company Boldmove Nation at IAPA Expo in Europe a few years before. Given their expertise in compact dark rides, the park and Boldmove started talking about a building in the back of the park, near the roller coaster and the simulator. And before the transformation, the building contained a wax museum and an expo about the Flåklypa IP. By reusing an existing building with only 220 square meters, or 2,368 square feet, of ride area to work with, they challenged Boldmove to work together and create a special dark ride. Rally Flåklypa begins in a warm-up area, where guests are invited to stand and prepare for the big race. The voices of Solan and Ludwig bring you to the next room, which seems like a normal cinema pre-show. The movie begins and you get introduced to your mission, to race from Paris to the Pyramids. Your competitors? Well, there's Wasa Turbo, Climate Killer, Catamarano Grande, Amore, Bellissimo, Quattro, Stagione, 2, to name a few, and also Ellen Busk. She's the villain, and her robot dog will race for her. But there's more. They discover that he will sabotage the race. Luckily, Solan has a new car to race with, inspired by the original Il Tempo Gigante. Il Tempo Gigante 2. And when revealing that car, you can actually see it as the curtains on the right-hand side open up and you see the post area where the real car is showcased. But the surprises are not done. As the movie ends with Solan's caravan to get ready on the screen goes up and reveals the real door of the caravan where you can step inside. Here, you can find a very rich themed area with lots of references to the Flåklypa IP. For example, Sola needs special shoes to reach the pedals of the Il Tempo Gigante because of its size, and those are on display here. Although the room doesn't really feel as a caravan due to it being too large, the theming really brings the idea to life, including retro sofa seats. Another funny element in the theming is fly curtains in front of the evacuation door. This area is perfect for guests so that they can explore the details before going into the actual boarding station. In the station, there's 2 loading platforms with vehicles. And in total, there will be 4 vehicles in the ride, giving it a capacity of 480 people per hour. Given the size of the attraction, that's quite impressive. And the ride has the first Rogue Rides trackless vehicles. This new company is a subdivision of Boldmove Nation, with completely European-produced vehicles. They are highly themed, with comfortable seating, and they seat up to 6 guests. There's no interactivity in the ride, but 21 sound speakers, as the actual ride doesn't have any speakers. This is because of space issues, so that each vehicle has its own sound experience. As they are trackless, they can each time recharge, either in the station and even during the ride in the scenes where it halts. Ready to board? Here we go. You start in Paris, where you prepare yourself for the big race. And before driving to the starting block, you can see yourself inside the Il Tempo Gigante in this first little scene through real-time rendering. The curtain goes up and off you go towards the race. This scene is a kind of immersive tunnel with 4 meter or 30 feet high screens, and you see one in front of you and on each side. Due to the vehicle movement, you really think you speed ahead once the race starts. The action jumps from one screen to the other, really bringing you in the race. You continue, but get interrupted by a giant barrel that flies out of the car from our Nemesis race car, right as you're driving in the Alps. Here, you see some physical theming as you go slowly towards the pit stop, so that Reodor can fix us. We continue our race, and this time we're back in the same immersive tunnel as before, but now driving in the desert. The race is close, and just as you're about to lose, you have a trick up your sleeve. With an explosive button, you can just jump in front of our Nemesis to win the race with an epic slow-motion maneuver. That moment is my personal highlight of the ride, due to the vehicle movement, the visuals, and the sound, all perfectly combined in one thrilling moment. In the final scene, you receive the first prize award and return to Paris to celebrate. When exiting the ride, you arrive at a Parisian-inspired square where you can admire the large Il Tempo Gigante that you saw before during the pre-show. The ice cream shop nearby sells different delicious sweets that you can enjoy in this indoor area. Actually, more smaller and mid-sized parks should think about having themed indoor seating areas, as it really adds value for guests to take a break somewhere, besides the sit-down restaurant, and that way you're still immersed in the environment of the park, especially on bad weather or very hot days. In conclusion, Rally Flåklypa adds another great ride to the Hunderfossen lineup. It's not just a simple dark ride, but a full experience with the different areas leading up to the actual ride and also the post-ride area. A video of the ride doesn't do it justice, given that you miss out on the soundscape and the vehicle movements. You can also see that Boldmove Nation has experience with using IPs and integrating them flawlessly in the rides. Here they did it with an external IP, but they also did it before with their own IPs such as Too Much in the French dark ride Champy-Folie, and they recently announced a new IP called Cactus Valley, a classic Western theme setting with a twist as the main characters are cacti. We're glad to see that even though Rally Flåklypa is a very heavy screen-based ride, they also integrated physical theming. It shows the importance of combining physical and digital elements to create a fun family dark ride. Okay, the ride might not be a major e-ticket ride, but given the limited size, they really did everything they could to give a high quality and long experience. If I can give one note, it's that in one of the scene transitions, you really see the maintenance door as it's part of the projection screen. And I think an additional curtain or cover-up would really help to keep the immersion of the race, as the door stands out a little bit too much. That being said, Hunderfossen opened a perfect modern dark ride for their lineup, and as the park has already many indoor rides, even on rainy days, you'll actually have a great time. Although the ride had a limited budget, you feel that every room and the actual ride is elevated, and it's not just cardboard. You have the theming of the vehicles, the high-quality beamers, and the actual props that make the ride a hidden gem. Are you eager to visit the park? Well, keep in mind that Hunderfossen Eventyrpark target group is families with children from ages 3 to 12 years old. The park welcomes only 10% of non-Norwegian guests at the moment, and it's usually open from late May until early October. In the winter, the park has a special winter opening with limited rides, but additional winter attractions and an ice cathedral hotel. Although the typical enthusiast might not be the target group of this park, it's definitely worth a visit while in Norway, as it will charm you by its magnificent green location and mix of unique attractions. Flåklypa is another great example of that, and families will really relive the moment they saw in theaters in real life. We'd like to thank Hunderfossen and Boldmove Nation for inviting us for the soft opening of this attraction, and we really had a great time at the park and the hotel to discover what this park is all about in Norway. Thank you for listening to Coaster Kings. You can listen to our other episodes and minisodes on your favorite podcasting app. If you like what you hear, don't hesitate to leave us a review, as it really helps us out. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, where you'll find out more about our next adventures. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!